Please welcome our moderator, content queen and journalist, Danielle Young.
What? I told you guys, stressful. Family or fiance is a decision I hope to never have to decide between for myself. So God bless Chase and Eric. As you can see, they got married. So that's good. So that's good. I'd be interested to know how things are going between these two because the demons were real. But as you know, this show is designed to bring engaged couples together because they are going through something tumultuous either between the family or between the family and the fiance. So Miss Tracy McMillan is the relationship expert who is the center of this show. And as you can see, like dealing with a relationship like Chase's and Eric's, her work was cut out for her, and she showed up with some really good pointers for the both of them to be able to get over their traumas and move forward. She is a hard worker, that Tracy McMillan. I will tell you that much, because it is not easy to be able to be the moderator between two hopeful married hopefuls. And there's nobody better to do this than this woman. And I'm so excited because she's joining us today for a Q&A. And as you know, the show is returning on Saturday at 9 p.m. on OWN. So y'all make sure y'all ready to watch. So let's get Tracy in this room because we got questions.
Hello.
There she goes. Hey, Tracy.
Hey, how are you?
I'm stressed.
Okay. Calm down. It all worked out.
It all worked out. It all worked out. But I commend you for going into these situations with such a cool, calm, and collected spirit to get these people to one page.
Mm-hmm. Well, really, a lot of times it's really about being a presence and, bringing out what's in the highest good. Because one of the things that happens on this show is that the highest good doesn't always mean that the couple stays together. There are times when the highest good is these people actually really don't belong getting married. So we have redefined happy ending. Happy ending is like whatever is best for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's really good. I want to know, before we get into the Q&A, which I want to remind everybody watching, first of all, thank you guys for being here. Y'all could be anywhere on the internet today, so we're glad that you're joining us. But if you want to submit questions, feel free to use the Q&A tab. Also, if you want us to hear you, which I would love to hear your beautiful voices, make sure you raise your hand and I will definitely get to those questions. So Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about how you even got involved into this show? It's so amazing.
Well, so I was on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday in 2014 and maintained a relationship there. And when this show came around, they asked me to come in. And really, it is so much about the things I'm interested in as a relationship expert. Like, what you have here is that most people's issues in their relationships really originate in their families. So what you have with Family or Fiancé is the cause and the effect living in the same house for 3 days. And what happens is that all the stuff comes to the surface. You see it perfectly in this episode. It's like the issues that the couple is having trace right back to what happened in their families growing up. And so there's an opportunity to heal all of it just by facing it and letting it come to the surface. So it's really a privilege to work with these couples and these families.
I know you handle it like it is a privilege, and it's beautiful to watch too, because I'm always talking about doing the self-work and things like that. I do it myself, and I know it is not for the weak. So it takes a really strong person to be able to do such in a couple. I'm always so intrigued by people that are willing to put their stuff out there. What is some of the most raw moments that you've been able to witness as a therapist, being the voice of the show?
So I would say that this group of episodes has some of the most intense moments in the show. And I think the difference between the first season and these episodes is that this group of people all watched the first season. So they came on the show knowing what they wanted to work on and ready to do the work. So what you're seeing are people who are willing to go to those really deep and sometimes scary places to have a healing or a breakthrough, because what they want is to have a great relationship. And really having a great relationship is as simple as making skilled choices instead of unskilled choices. A lot of times what people do is they just do what comes naturally, or they do what their emotions tell them to do, or they do, like, God forbid, the conventional wisdom, like just the stuff that's out there. Mm-hmm. And what happens when they come on the show and do this experiment really is that they learn new ways of acting. And when you act a different way, you get a different result. So to go deeper into your question, there was a moment that was so close to my heart in this group of episodes where the woman fiancé had a broken relationship with her mom who had given her up. And in order to move forward in her marriage relationship, she needed to resolve that. And this was a moment that was near and dear and very moving for me in particular, because I was a foster child and I was given up. And being able to bring these two women together in that healing was healing also for me, to be honest. I had a lot of tears on that one.
I can only imagine, because you're getting to also experience them healing as well.
There's no question that I see myself, and anyone watching is going to see themselves in every one of these couples. Somewhere. Because,
right.
You know what? We're just human beings out here, and we're all just trying to have a good relationship. And, we're really struggling with a lot of the same things. So I think that's one of the most powerful things about the show, is that you really do identify with what these couples are going through on some level.
Right. I want to go into some of the questions because we have some folks in attending. I'm going to put my glasses on. Virtual events, honey, they expose the bad eyeballs.
That's right.
In the room. So we do have a question. I want to get to Alexandria Jordan from AfterBuzz, and she has raised her hand. So let me see if I can get her.
Yes. I'm here, Alexandria. Hi, how are you guys?
Hi.
Question. I wanted to know, how can couples identify if they have a trauma bond with somebody before they get married?
Oof.
Well, a trauma bond is usually going to be identifiable by its intensity. So it's going to feel like it felt being a child. Now, to some degree, everyone reenacts unresolved childhood things in their grown-up relationships, but trauma bond is on a whole nother level. It's like you will have obsessive thoughts. There will be repeated sort of ruptures, okay? It'll be characterized by repeated ruptures, and that the relationship doesn't work, and yet you're experiencing love and you cannot leave. Those are all signs of trauma bonding. And I want to say, anything that you know about relationship things like a trauma bond can be like a spectrum, right? It can be from 1 to 100. Somebody could be a 92 on the trauma bond scale. This is just how I think of most of these things. It's not, I have it, I don't have it. It's, to what degree is this trauma bond energy operating in my relationship? That's kind of a more useful way to look at it. So it's not so much about just going, oh, I don't have to deal with that, or, oh, that's not me. It's more like, we all have trauma. Trauma is when whatever was happening to you was so big that you were not able to totally process it in the moment. And everybody has at least a few of those kinds of experiences. And as Black people, we have way more than a few, because we're carrying generational trauma still going down from slavery. So, the prison industrial complex. I mean, these are things that are in our families for, pretty much all of us at some level are dealing with these things, oftentimes just one generation removed. So it's something that we really need to, and it's one of the most exciting things about the show. And one of the things that got me most interested in working on it was the idea that in the Black community, oftentimes we're not really engaged in the therapy solution. We're engaged in the spiritual solution and prayer, and that's awesome, right? That is definitely part of the healing, but it's only part. And without seriously addressing issues in a therapeutic way, it's very, very difficult to have it to heal and move forward.
Very. Thank you for that question. It was a really great one. We have another question, another raised hand. So we're going to get to hear another beautiful voice of an attendee. We have Linda Antwi from EUR Web.
Hi, guys. Great show, by the way. Great show. The mom of Chase really had me in tears when she finally gave that blessing at the end and realizing that her negativity was really an issue, not only in her relationship with her daughter, but the relationship her daughter had with her fiance. So my question is, do the couples receive extended support or tools to continue moving forward in healing and addressing the issues that brought them to the house in the first place?
Well, I always say to the couples, this is not a one-time thing. This is like doing a retreat. And then you start a process here that you are now responsible to carry out when you go home. And that is something that really, it's once you start to engage in this kind of, I want to call it recovery work. When you start to engage in this kind of work, it's really a lifelong process. It doesn't mean that you're going to be always in therapy but you're always going to be interacting with yourself and your own growth. So that can take a lot of different forms. And I don't think all couples take it home with them, but a lot of them do.
Right. Thank you for that question, Linda. We have another one. Thank you. We have another one from, my friend Ray Holiday from I1 Digital. Hey, Ray.
Hey, Danny, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Ray. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Tracy, how are you?
Hi, great, thank you.
Good. So one of the beautiful things about this episode was, so for Chase, she had a real healing moment between her and her mom, in that she understood the type of person that her mom was, and she wanted to be the opposite of that in her marriage, so that she thought that would be like one of the key elements that she needed to keep that marriage going, not to be the mean one, quote unquote, right? So my question is, if that healing doesn't take place, what type of tips do you have for a Chase who's walking into a situation like that, where she wants to be the opposite of her mom, but she doesn't have that blessing or the healing?
Well, like I said, I think these things are a lifelong process. I almost want to say it's like learning a new language. So Chase's work is about, now she's going to go learn French, right? And she's raised up speaking English. And what's going to happen is, at first it's going to be weird, and she's only going to know a couple words, and then if she's having a bad day, she might forget, or you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not a straight line, it's a zigzag. So it's, as long as she stays committed to the process, she will get better at this new way of being in the world. Now, old stuff, because this is a lot of brain, there's a lot of science here. Like, your brain creates certain ways of relating, and undoing that takes time, and it takes a lot of practice. But it all starts with the awareness, and it all starts with the willingness. And Chase had both of those things really strong. I think what you see in this episode is so much of how, when a couple heals, or when a couple engages in a process, everyone around them also gets raised up. It just naturally happens that way, because you got to think of family systems as like a mobile, right? If you touch one part of it, the whole thing moves. If you change one thing in a family, everyone is going to change, because even if they don't change a lot, they will change, because once I start acting in a new way, the other people can't do their same behavior. So I think what you're going to see is that Chase's mom is going to shift in the way she relates, and Chase is going to shift, and then Eric, and then sisters and brothers and everybody. So I actually feel like Chase has a very good chance of continuing to grow in this way, because she was so clear and able to identify how the behavior was blocking what she wanted. And when people can see that, they can sort of go, well, one of my images for this is like how a dog barks at the mailman every day. Every day the dog thinks a robber is here, I've got to bark. But human beings, we have consciousness. We're able to think about what we think about. And what that means is that Chase is now going to go, oh, it's not a robber. I don't need to act mean because I've made it. I know what I'm doing. It's the mailman, and I'm going to make a different choice. And I feel like Chase is in a really good place to be able to do that.
Okay. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, Ray. That's a great question. We have a question from Jasmine Hatch from the the Quintessential Gentleman. That's a tongue twister. Magazine. Thank you, Jasmine, for your question. Let me get it out for you. Okay, Tracy, you ready?
Yes.
There was a situation where Chase was depressed and her fiance wasn't engaging internally. In what ways can men engage more internally and express their feelings toward depression of their spouse? She says she's asking this because most men don't know how or are afraid to express themselves and their feelings towards others. Thank you, Jasmine.
Yeah, I think that we have a lot of ideas about masculinity in our country and our culture that make it so that it's considered weakness to express feelings and to be dialed in on a feeling level unless that feeling is anger, right? Anger is the one allowable feeling. But I do feel that definitely Eric was becoming willing to, once he saw what was happening, I think he was willing to be there for Chase. So the way men can do this is by, first of all, giving themselves permission to feel a whole spectrum of feelings. And part of the reason Eric isn't seeing it in Chase is because he doesn't see it in himself. So when you shut down feelings, let's say you want to feel less pain, and Eric was engaged in a lot of behaviors around like drinking, smoking, that probably were at least in part driven by wanting to do two things: pain management, emotional pain, and regulation, emotional regulation. A lot of times when people are drinking a lot, smoking a lot, those behaviors are being driven by a need to regulate emotionally. So that's how he's doing it. He's having a big feeling, he's reaching for a drink. He's feeling powerless or overwhelmed or worried about money, he reaches for the smoke. So when you are putting like a blanket on your feelings, you don't perceive other people's feelings either. So just the act of being present is really where this starts. Now, there are lots of ways of being present.
Wow.
Meditation is free. Meditation is just the act of being present. Mindfulness practice, another way, just to be present in the moment. Attending to your breath. These are all ways that people can start to engage with themselves in a way that's going to allow them to engage with their partners on a deeper level. And I wouldn't say it's just men, although definitely there is a cultural thing around men. Plenty of women have ways to mood alter or do pain management that prevents them from seeing their partners for who and where they really are.
Yeah, that's so real and that's so true. But I do know what Jazz is talking about. You know how
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm. I just don't want to get like unfair, because
Right.
the truth is a lot of times women, we can just be in our groups talking about like, oh yeah, they're like this. And like, we are in couples. So that means if we act different, they come different. So it doesn't mean I'm in charge of how they be, you know what I'm saying? But it does mean that I have my own actions are really what create my reality more than anything someone else is doing.
Now that's a good piece of advice right there for anybody. Like you got to be responsible for how you show up too.
100% of the time.
I love that. We have another question from Alexandria from AfterBuzz. Let's get her voice on in here.
Hello? Okay, hi. Okay, so in this episode, the couple wasn't financially stable and Eric didn't think finances was a priority. So I wanted to know, what do you think about couples that aren't financially stable and want to get married based off love alone?
Well, the thing about, love is a great reason to get married.
So cute.
But we are always going to have to deal with life on life's terms. And that's what money is. You know, money is about grounded. It's a very grounded thing. And I think what the great thing about this exercise is that once Eric really had the dollars in his hand and he could see specifically, like concrete, in a concrete way, that he only had $45 at the end of the month, I think it got real for him. Now, here's the thing about money. Sooner or later, it gets real for everybody, whether that's because the lights are getting turned off or because the car's getting repossessed. So there's no world where you can stay in denial around money unless, you have a trust fund. So it's like, money is something that hopefully a couple can get real about and get grounded about before they get into the marriage, but it's coming for you either way. So money, sex, these are the issues that people argue over, children, because these are the issues where sooner or later you can't keep accommodating your partner endlessly. Pretty soon you're like, oh, we got to make a decision. So because in the early days of a relationship, generally people try to accommodate their partner. They're like, oh, let me just move out of the way on this one, or let me just give a little on this. But once you get into the marriage, pretty soon there's no more room to give without selling yourself out or compromising yourself. And that's when the real issues start. Now, what's interesting about Chase and Eric is that they've been together for 7 years. That's a really long time. A lot of our couples are not together nearly that long. There's actually was a statistic that if you don't get engaged in the first 22 months, you're not going to get engaged, right? Statistically, you are unlikely to get engaged.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's the truth.
Right.
I'm saying that's a statistic that's out there. So Chase and Eric had probably been into deeper stuff as a couple because they've been together for so long.
True. I mean, not to comment on their relationship because I know everybody's relationship is their own, but watching that, I know people were probably feeling a way about just the idea of him cheating.
Yeah.
And that was such a big, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, Tracy, about breakers. As we wait for some more of you guys to raise your hands if you have questions.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
There are 2 reasons that people cheat. Okay, I mean, there are many reasons people cheat, but one of them is a way out or a cry for help. Now, I looked at Eric's cheating as a cry for help. Now, a lot of times, there's another person who says that cheating is not so much on the partner, it's to find another part of yourself, right? That there's a part of yourself that there's not space for in the relationship, and that you cheat and go be with someone else to experience that part of yourself. So I feel like what Eric was doing is the intimacy and the responsibility and the commitment was so big. It made sense to me that if he's cheating, it's on the day before he's getting engaged. It seems like, why would someone do that? I'm like, because the commitment is scaring him, and his way of reducing the power of the relationship on him is to go step out. So that's a way of sort of going, this relationship doesn't have so much power over me, because look at me, I got power over here.
Right.
So it's not uncommon actually for people to cheat even in their first year of marriage for exactly this reason, because they're overwhelmed and engulfed by the level of commitment, and in order to deal with that pressure, they create a little world, a little pocket of a world where they can be somebody else, somebody who doesn't have all this pressure on them. I'm not excusing it. I'm saying
definitely
the psychology. Yeah.
But it's an interesting perspective to look at it that way. But that could be a whole nother conversation that we might have to circle back to have at a later date, because I would love to talk about that. But we do have more questions. Alexandra, you want to ask another question out loud? We would love to hear you.
Okay, I'm here again. Hi.
Hi.
So, being that they were together for 7 years, I wanted to know how much of their relationship do you think was based off true love as opposed to insecurities? And how can couples identify one from the other?
Ooh.
Well, I'm not going to say there's two things. One thing's true love and one thing's insecurities. In fact, I think true love, even true love, has insecurities in it. Because human beings have insecurities. So, and human beings love, but not always truly. I think you've got to think about sometimes love as like a cell phone signal. Sometimes you just get a long way away from the tower. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you drop the call. Sometimes you're out of range. Sometimes it's not like a perfect thing. It's a signal that you're either connected to or not. And I'm going to say that the connection isn't always with the partner. A lot of times the connection is within. So like Eric, when he lost his connection within, he stepped out to reestablish that connection. Now, that caused him to basically take his energy away from the relationship. What you saw with this couple is all the different ways they were having trouble maintaining that connection within, and therefore maintaining that connection with each other. So when things are spotty in a relationship, the first thing you have to do is reestablish the connection to yourself and your God, or whatever that is, however you do that, you know? And I think a lot of times what people do is that they focus on the partner and try to establish a connection with the partner before they've established a connection with it.
True.
And it does not work that way, you know? But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that process. That's actually how it goes. So it's like, go ahead, try to do it with your partner, fail, and then go to yourself. That's exactly how it works. Just because you're having trouble, in a way that kind of means things are like great. You're alive. You're alive in this relationship if you're having trouble, because trouble is a natural consequence of just being a person moving through the world. So it doesn't mean anything about your relationship necessarily.
Right. Thank you for that question. We have another question from Linda, but before we get there, I wanted to talk about something that you mentioned, or, expand on it a little bit, Tracy, because I want to know what you think about the idea of people having done this work within themselves to become whole, or still working in works in progress. Yeah. Are we assuming that everybody that gets married or coupled up are not complete, but are at least doing that type of work?
No. Here's the thing. You are a certain thing on the day of your marriage, and the marriage is going to start growing you up. It's like having a child, right? It's like all you are on the day you get married is ready to be ready, hopefully. Hopefully, it's like the day you have the baby. You're ready to be a parent. You're not a parent, you know, you're not a husband on day one or a wife on day one. You're starting a very long journey toward whatever that's going to mean to you and whatever that means in this couplehood, because every couple is different. And hopefully what you want to do is learn how to do in skilled ways, navigate all the things that are going to come your way, because there's going to be sickness and health and, you know, richer and poorer. I mean, it's going to be a lot of things. It's going to be life. So no, in no way should anybody think you have to be finished or cooked or whatever to get married. All you got to be is willing and open and have a level of humility. And then it's going to go a lot better for you. Because you saw when these people put it down, all the, you know, the need to have power, right?
Yeah.
So that moment when I say to her, you're standing in the way of what you want because you want it to come from you instead of just coming from somewhere. Like Eric became willing to change off of the exercise he did, and Chase was upset because she wanted that to happen because she asked for it. Because she's like, I've been asking for this for years and now he's willing to do it. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, that's how it works. It doesn't naturally necessarily happen on your shift or because you said so. You just got to take a W, as my son would say. He's like, take the W, you know, take your wins where you can get them. Now, this was a matter of her not needing to be in power anymore. When she could put that power down, boom, her heart opens and they can move forward.
Got you. Got you. Let's go into another question we have one from Linda from EUR Web. Hey, Linda.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful. Tracy, so I know every relationship is different, but do you have a general piece of advice for surviving, like longevity for a marriage? Like, what would be some great tools to implement in a relationship that would allow you to continue to move forward and have a long-term marriage?
Well, I'm going to say the number one tool that you need is the ability to negotiate. So marriage is not about getting your way or the other person getting their way. It's about you expressing your needs, your partner expressing their needs, and then you start a negotiation. And everything can be negotiated. And your goal is to get to a win-win. It is not to get everything you want or have the other person get everything they want. Every once in a while that happens where you can be like, all right, I'm going to let you win this one. We'll go to Hawaii on vacation instead of New York. Okay. And then the other partner can be sort of like gracefully, you know, thank you in a graceful way for getting 100% of their way. Because sometimes, and then you can be like, and we'll go to New York next year. Do you know what I'm saying? So this ability to negotiate and state needs, these are the two biggest skills there are. If you can state your need and then the other partner can hear your need, that's a big deal. You can start a negotiation. And you just have to be knowing that you are in you're like in the same skin, and anything you do to harm your partner or take something away from your partner is also taking away from you, right? Not that you're the same person, but that there's a system here and it's like a house and you both have to live in it. So if we, you know, I'm being in metaphor here, punch a hole in the wall, that's your house you just hurt. So you don't want to hurt your partner. You want your partner to feel safe, to feel fulfilled and happy. And so you want to do what you can to negotiate solutions that allow your partner to feel good. So that's what I would say is the number one skill. The other, I would say that's number one and number two and possibly number three. So if we were to go to number four, I'd say it's really about repair. So one of the most important skills in a relationship is to be able to repair when there are ruptures or when you damage or hurt your partner. Now, what that's about is just, if your partner says, wow, that hurt me, you don't say, well, it shouldn't, or I didn't mean to. You say, oh, I am so sorry I hurt you. There's no like deciding whether or not your partner was hurt. They're telling you they were hurt. That's all that matters.
Mhm.
So once you understand that there's been a rupture, now it's about making a repair. It's like, what can I do to make this better? Or I promise I will watch that in the future. So once that partner makes a repair attempt, the next thing has to happen, and this is the critical thing, the partner who was hurt has to accept the repair attempt. Now you can move forward. You saw this with Chase and Eric. She made a repair. You saw this many times in this episode. Someone makes a repair, someone receives a repair attempt, someone receives a repair attempt, boom, hearts come together and they start moving forward again. The train leaves the station and starts moving, the relationship train, whether it's the mom and daughter relationship. You see it all the time on Family or Fiancé. It could be sisters, could be best friends. It's just, the whole show is about repairs.
Right.
and moving forward. So those are some of the things that I would say are most important.
Yeah, and being receptive to those repairs, like you
Huge.
said. That's
huge.
a big part of
Mhm.
it. I have one more question from Rayval. Hey, Rayval Davis, a friend of mine. She's from Forbes, CNN, and God is My Agent podcast. And she says that this conversation, first of all, this conversation is healing. And thank you for that, Tracy. So in the last few weeks, we have all been having a lot of conversations around representation on television, and specifically the representation of Black women in television and media. As a host, Tracy, how important is it for us to see more hosts like you who have the tools and the educations, yes, Queen, to proactively handle conflict? And then there's another part that I'll get to once you answer that.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I love this because it's so true. And it's not, when I think about Family or Fiancé and the representation we're doing, it's not just the representation of like a process of learning relationship skills. That is huge right there. But what really moves me is seeing the Black family be represented in all its complexity. Like, and in particular, to see the Black man making commitment and doing that work, which I do not feel has ever been fairly represented in media. And like, I'm not saying, oftentimes women, we have a more natural move toward commitment. I'm not saying we're more faithful. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, if I like you, I'm going to naturally be like, yeah, let's do this. I'm all in. Okay. Men are more like, whoa, 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 whoa. Right?
You said all in?
Yeah, exactly. Did you say all? Okay. I was thinking more like the hokey pokey, you put your left foot in. You know what I'm saying?
Saying birthdays.
That's right. So when I see these commitments happening and I watch these men open their hearts to that process, to me, this is the most powerful thing we are representing. We are representing healing in the Black community, and integrating like a healing process with the other strengths of Blackness, which is like, our faith. It's funny, I went to the town where my dad was born. And there's a church that my great uncle started after slavery. And on the wall is a whole line of McMillans. Boom, 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 boom. It's literally like 10 of them, all pastors, all preachers. And, this is how deep our relationship with faith goes. This is like how we survived. And yet, moving forward, we also want to integrate and represent additional ways of healing and healing our trauma, our generational trauma, and resolving that. And really just putting everybody in the same house and people telling the truth and letting the truth come forward automatically starts the healing. This episode was a perfect example of that. I was making notes as I was watching it. I'm like, I mean, we talked about in this one episode, there was like depression, like infidelity, the mother, you know, being in that hardness, you know. It's so powerful to me to watch these families because it's really within the family that the healing happens. That's the other thing I know. I'm a facilitator and I can give them some tasks and frame things for them, but the families themselves are the people doing the work. Yeah. And to me, this is like what is so powerful about this show.
I love that answer so much. I love that question. And she had a part 2,
okay,
which I definitely wanted to hit as well. Okay. It's in the vein of representation for you. How intentional were you and the producers in exploring Black conflict, and you talked about it a little bit, without exploiting it as we often see on reality TV? Another great question, right?
I have to say, the people involved with this show, every single person involved with this show, from the network on down, we are all here for the love, for the healing. That's why we're here. Like, and when each person has, and I mean, I'm talking about from the executive producer to the PA, right? Everyone is here with their hearts open to have a healing. That is just what the show is about on every level. And I think what you see on screen is sort of a reflection of what's going on behind the scenes. And this is why I would never have gotten involved in anything exploitative. Like, to me, that's exactly what I don't think we need any more of. It's one of the things about reality TV that can be very difficult, is that oftentimes it can be about that, but I would say not on own. And it's just not what the network is about. It's not what the people in charge are about. And so my sense is that people who don't come for the healing, and everybody does, frankly, but if they're there just to like whatever, be on TV or something, even they show up on day 2 and are like, holy crap, what just happened? Because the process works on you.
Yeah.
Once you cross the threshold into the house, all bets are off. You have made an agreement and it's gonna go down, you know?
It's almost retreat. It's retreat-esque.
It really is, but it's like retreat that's wonderful and
work.
You don't really know what's gonna happen. Yeah.
Real work. Well, Tracy, what a beautiful experience it is to hear directly from your mouth what the show is intended to do. Because for me, it was definitely entertainment, stressful to see these couples go through things, but also the healing aspect is what makes this show so important and so special. And so I'm glad that you joined us today for this very first virtual screening experience and Q&A for your show, Family or Fiancé. Thank you so much for having, giving time.
Thank you for all the great questions. Really, such and great questions. Thank you.
You guys really came to party with the questions. I love them. I love being in a room of my peers. I wish I could see you all and hug you all, but I've had such a great time with y'all, and I've been your host, Danielle Young. Make sure you follow me and Tracy all over social media.
Follow me.
Yes. Make sure you watch Family or Fiancé this Saturday on OWN at 9 p.m. And thank you guys so much, and enjoy the rest of your afternoons.